Hello everyone and welcome to session 2 of the Trial Class Bootcamp. Today we're going to be really diving into the actual trial class itself. What can you do in your trial class to make sure you're actually selling and converting those new students, those new leads into actual paying students? So that is the plan for today. If you are watching the replay, feel free to jump ahead just a minute or two while we get everything set up. And if you're joining us live, please do introduce yourself in the comments. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Let me know the tech is all working okay. It's great to know who would be joining us. And also just a quick reminder, if you haven't already, please do make sure you register at the link in the video description to get reminders of all of the live sessions of this bootcamp, as well as a whole bunch of freebies that I'll be talking a little bit more about later on in today's session. So do make sure to check out that link if you haven't already. Okay, looks like we've got people tuning in. Hi there, Teresa. Great to see you again. Thank you for joining us. And Katie, great to see you. And Tanya back again. Fantastic. Awesome. Okay, looks like the live stream is working well, which is always good to see. Hi there, Annalisa. Thanks for joining us. Hope you find today's session helpful. Fantastic. What is my hair doing today? Oh my goodness. Anyway, let's pull up our slides. I'm just going to get everything quickly set up while you guys are all introducing yourselves. So just pulling everything up here. Yes. So today's session is all about trial classes that actually sell. I know we are teachers here, so we always get a bit nervous about the sales, the marketing, the making money out of our teaching can be really quite daunting when you are going independent, finding your own private students to teach online. But it's kind of making that, I hate saying mindset shift, because like the word mindset always brings up, I think, some negative vibes every now and then. People always going on about change your mindset when actually I don't know, but in this particular case, it is, I think, a little bit of a mindset shift from teachers being teachers there just to educate through to teachers as, salespeople, I guess. We've got to sell and actually convert those leads into paying students. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that actually means in terms of what you actually do in the trial class today. I'm not going to be diving in too much into that good teaching stuff, because I'm assuming everyone here is amazing teachers already. So this is not just going to be like how to be a good teacher and teach lessons well. This is very much about how to make sure your trial classes not only show off your teaching skills, but also persuade the student and the parents, if it's a child that you're teaching, to sign up and pay for classes and really facilitate that process. So that's what we're really going to be focusing on today. Moving swiftly on. If you are new here, I'm assuming most people probably tuned into session 1 of the bootcamp. If you haven't, don't worry. You can catch the replay. The link will be somewhere around the video. If you missed the last session, don't worry. But if you are new here, my name is Katie. Most people know me as the director of A Bridge Academy, which creates interactive teaching materials for online teachers. I've been an online teacher on and off since 2013. I'm also a qualified classroom teacher from the UK, as you might be able to tell from my accent. I've taught in classrooms in the UK, China, and Japan before. And back in 2020, I co-founded an online ESL startup program and helped grow that as well. So I've got quite a lot of experience in terms of the teaching side, both as an independent teacher, working with companies, working in schools, running an agency, all this kind of stuff. So I'm hopefully going to bring some of those insights and top tips and tricks I've learned along the way to share with you guys today. Okay, looks like we've got a few more people tuning in, which is fantastic. Hi there, Emma. Great to see you again. Only watch the first 15 minutes. No worries. Yes, you can catch the replay later if you do need to leave early. That's no problem. Thanks for joining us while you can. And Alison, great to see you. Monday's session was fantastic. Great to hear. I'm glad you found Monday's session helpful. Hope you enjoyed today as well. And Ivy, thank you, Ivy. Really appreciate your support. Thank you so much for tuning in. And Melody, hi there, Melody. Hello again. Alana from Eastern NC. I feel like that is North Carolina, America somewhere. Great to see you. Thank you for joining us. Hi there, Michelle. Melody from Wisconsin, USA. Fantastic. Okay, we've got people from all around the world tuning in today, so I do hope you enjoyed today's session. The other thing I'm just going to very quickly say, well, firstly, what makes a good trial class? A question for you to get started on in the comments. Another quick request for you guys, if you could really help me out, I'd really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe and share your wonderful comments, of course, as we go throughout, because it really does help these videos help even more amazing online teachers like you. So do feel free to like, subscribe, and write a wonderful comment. Always really, really appreciate it. So thank you. And yes, a quick kind of discussion prompt, I guess, to get us started here. What do you think makes a good trial class in terms of what you do in the class itself? Thinking back to if you've taught a lot of trial classes before, which trial classes were successful? Why were they successful? How do you measure success when it comes to a trial class? What do you think makes a good trial class? Right, stay hydrated. I have a tendency to talk incredibly fast, and then my voice sort of dies. So try not to destroy my throat today. What makes a good trial class? I'm going to give you a bit of a hint. I think it's also in the title of today's video. It's not just good teaching. What is it that actually makes a good trial class? Let me know in the comments. I stumped everyone. There is, by the way, about a 20-second delay between me talking and then the live stream actually going through. That's some kind of YouTube thing. So apologies, I ended with awkward pause every now and then waiting for the comments. It's because there's always that slight delay. Amanda saying an accurate demonstration of your teaching style and likely class routine. Love that. And yeah, you want it to really reflect you and your teaching style, because there's no point teaching kind of one type of trial class. Student really loves that. They sign up for your classes because they really enjoy the trial class, and then it turns out the real classes with you are completely different. So you're right, it needs to be accurate and representation of your teaching style. Absolutely. Child's enjoyment and that they learnt something. Yeah, and that's definitely something the parents will be measuring, right? When the parents look at your trial class, quite a lot of parents sit in and watch these kind of classes. Yeah, they'll be wanting to see that the child's happy and they're learning. That's absolutely something that is important. And he's saying connection. Yes, I love that. Building rapport, building that connection with the student, letting them get to know you, getting to know them a bit too, making them feel comfortable in your classroom environment. And he's saying a trial class that converts. Yes, you're thinking sales here, and I love that, because I know as teachers are thinking, oh yes, we've got to think about our students and think about our teaching, but we also need to think about sales when it comes to a trial class. So one way of measuring the success of your trial class, and you might argue the most important way of measuring success of a trial class, is did they sign up for classes afterwards? Absolutely. Alison, being prepared, encouraging, making connections. Yes, love all of that. Katie saying, I'm not sure it's just me, but I can't see any comments. Oh, I'm actually streaming this to 2 channels at the moment. So I think you're probably on my personal YouTube channel, which is great. I'm also streaming this to the Abridge Academy company channel, because I'm trying to shift like I want to say coaching. I don't really call myself a coach, but the stuff I do on like the marketing techniques and strategies, that kind of thing, onto my personal channel. And then stuff that's about sort of curriculum and teaching skills and yeah, curriculum and teaching skills to be on the Abridge Academy side of things. And because this bootcamp is sort of covering both, it's about teaching skills, but it's also about sales. I've kind of put it on both. So I think you might be tuning in on my personal one, because I emailed everyone the link to the one on the Abridge Academy YouTube. Don't worry, everyone's still engaging well on both sides, so you can chat on either video. It doesn't matter. Tanya saying engagement and building relationship. Absolutely. Building rapport. I love this. It really shows that you guys care about students, right? And that really comes across. I think whenever I talk to teachers, they're always saying like the student's happy, the student likes your classes. I'm thinking about that student first. Yes. Another comment here. Child class that sells. Yes. Child class also allows you to take out tech and Wi-Fi connections. Yeah, exactly. It's an opportunity to make sure your students got the right setup, help them if they've not got the right setup, make sure things go smoothly going forward. Great. Okay, I'm loving all of these ideas, and do keep them coming in, because we can all learn from each other as well here. I put a few kind of suggestions here, and this kind of links into what we were talking about in the intro as well last time. When it comes to trial classes, and this, again, as I say, it's very much that kind of mindset shift when it comes to us as teachers. But I would say ultimately the ultimate purpose of a trial class is to promote your classes, right? It's sales. But there's also a few other things you want to achieve. Firstly, you want to be able to assess your student's level and put in place a kind of plan for what you're going to do next. You're basically trying out the student and making sure that they are someone that you can help and that you want to work with. So it's not only the student trying out you and your teaching style, but we want you to also think about these factors too. It's about you being able to put into a plan, put in place a plan. I can speak, honest. Okay. It's about you being able to put in place a plan for the future, communicating that plan to the parents, persuading them that is exactly what they want their child to do, and therefore making that kind of sale, making that conversion. Definitely. Okay. And I know I've kind of said this already, but one really key thing here. Our goal in the trial class is not just to teach. In fact, I'd almost argue that's a sort of secondary goal. Our ultimate goal here is to sell. Realistically, even if we're just thinking about the impact we're having on students, realistically, the impact you can have in terms of education in a, let's say, half-hour long trial class is going to be relatively minimal. You can certainly have a big impact in terms of building a rapport, building that connection, helping them feel confident in your classes. But in terms of their actual learning, there's a very limited amount you can realistically achieve in a trial class. But what's really going to have an impact on their learning is signing up for longer term classes with you, right? And over several months or even years of classes with you, that's going to have the biggest impact on their learning. So even though, yes, we do care a lot about teaching and we care a lot about the education of our students, our goal in this trial class, and I know I've said this about 10 times already, is to sell and to help the parents feel confident that you are the best teacher for them. And don't be afraid of that sale. Like, don't be afraid of putting on that business hat and kind of getting that kind of sales messaging and things like that across, because ultimately that is there to help your student make the best progress in the longer term. And as a reminder, I'm sure most of you have done this already, but if you haven't already, do check out the link in the description to register for all the sessions of this bootcamp. Today, we're very much focusing on part 2 here, trial classes that sell. On Monday, we had a session on finding the right students and bringing the right kind of people into your trial classes. So much detail on that, so many useful tips and suggestions. So I hope everyone found that helpful. If you missed Monday's session, don't worry, you can catch up on the replay. It's on YouTube. Somewhere around the video, you should find the link to session 1. And on Friday, we've got session 3, which is follow up for success, which is about what to do after the trial class, messaging with the parents, what kind of communications, what kind of things to send to them afterwards to help them, again, make that purchase decision. So that is everything we're covering in this trial class bootcamp. Don't forget to register. Link is in the description. It gets you access to all of those sessions. And it also gives you access to all of these amazing freebies, which we'll be talking more about later on today. But there's a free placement test, free trial class teaching materials, free certificate templates. Parents love certificates, kids love it, sort of celebrates their learning, that kind of thing. And also follow-up templates, or these are Canva templates that you can use to follow up with your students after the trial class. More on that in the 3rd session. But yeah, all of these is included for free if you register at the link. No hard sales or anything like that. It's just stuff for free. Please do help yourself to those freebies, because I'm sure you're going to find those helpful. I've had some really amazing feedback on these materials and things from teachers already, so I hope you guys enjoy them. Ooh. Right, so let's talk a bit more then about what makes a perfect trial class. And we've already said the importance of assessing a student's level and teaching, that kind of thing. But when it comes to the actual structure of a trial class, this is how I like to organize things. When I do my trial classes, I start off with some kind of assessment of the student's level. Now, I know there's some debate on this. Some teachers prefer to send students a quiz or something to do before the trial class. And I talked a little bit last time about, asking your students to send pictures of what work they've been working on recently, that kind of thing, to get a rough idea of their level. But I do think ultimately it's very difficult to judge a student's level just on some messages and a picture of their homework or something they've sent you beforehand. The best way to assess their level is to actually talk to them face to face and do a proper assessment. It doesn't have to feel like a super intense test, and I'm going to show you exactly what I use for my placement tests in a moment. It can be fun, it can be engaging, it can be more like a kind of quiz for them, but it gives you an insight into where they are at. I don't like to send it for them to do themselves outside of class time, because I've found in my experience that gives me an amazing insight into the parents' English level. But I don't want the parents to be the ones helping their kid with the quiz. I want to really assess the student's level. So I do this live in the trial class. First 10 minutes of the trial class is the assessment. That's what I found has worked best for me. Then I have a short teaching taster. As I've kind of already said, there's only so much you can realistically teach in a trial class. So this is about 15 minutes teaching demo. It's interactive, it's engaging. My ultimate goal really is to build rapport and confidence with that student, so they feel like they're more confident taking classes with me going forward. I also want to really clearly demonstrate some progress, because although we're saying that realistically you can't teach a huge amount in that time, the parent still wants to see their kid has learned something, because it shows that you can teach, right? So I tend to have one really key learning objective that I'm going to focus on, and by the end of that trial class, the kid will be like, oh yes, I have learned this thing, which really helps with that, demonstrating progress, building the parent's confidence then that you know how to teach. And then at the end, I'm going to tell you a little bit more at the end of today's session about what I do to wrap up at the end of my trial classes, because that is my real secret to success. the sales point, that real key conversion point, is right at the end of the trial class. Not just some generic feedback, but what do I actually do at the end of the trial class to sell? And do stick around till the end of today's session. I'm going to show you exactly what I do and how that has really boosted my trial class conversion rates. This, by the way, is something I'm not seeing teachers talking about. Everyone who's talking about trial classes doesn't do this. Like, if you look at the companies we used to teach with, they don't do this thing. If you look at a lot of the videos you might find elsewhere on YouTube about how to teach trial classes, I'm not seeing people talking about this. So do stick around till the end of this session to learn that secret to success, because genuinely it has massively helped. And I'm not just hyping you up here. It's amazing. It does help, seriously. So stick around for that. Feel free to guess in the comments what you think that secret's going to be, because I've had some interesting suggestions. It's always really helpful to hear what other people have found successful as well. So good to hear. Right, so moving swiftly on, because we've got a lot to get through today. As I said, the first part of my trial class, I do an assessment of the student's level. Let me know in the chat what you currently do to assess your student's level. Do you just send them stuff beforehand? Do you get them to do a quiz? Do you ask for copies of homework, that kind of thing, before the class and just base it on that? Do you use any particular assessment materials in the class itself? What do you do to assess your student's level in class? Emma's saying Abridge Academy placement test, of course. Thank you. Thank you for that feedback. Yes. Do check out that. The link is in the description to register for the bootcamp. And once you register for the bootcamp, you get free access to this placement test. Yes. Awesome. This is actually what I'm going to show you in a minute, what that placement test includes. I know it's not going to be perfect for everyone. So if this placement test is not the right thing for you, that's fine. Take some ideas from it, build your own, that's whatever. There's loads of similar options if you're teaching a different niche, like if you're teaching adults or if you're teaching like older teens or something like that. But if you're someone who's teaching kids, then the Abridge Academy placement test obviously is the best one out there. So do check it out. Thank you for that, Emma. That's great. Ivy's also saying the same thing. Abridge Academy placement test, 3 trials so far and all onboarded. That's fantastic. Great to hear, Ivy. And actually, Ivy was massively helpful for me when I was creating this placement test, giving some useful feedback and suggestions on it as well, and trying it out with her trial class students, which is fantastic. Katie's saying, I get a general idea from talking with the parent, and then I do a placement test. Great. I feel like we're kind of on the same lines here. We're kind of thinking on the same things. Before the class, you can ask the parent to send you some information, but ultimately a test of some kind is going to be the most helpful. Then I do a quiz, explain it covers reading, vocabulary, and comprehension, not speaking. The level set to lower than the test says, and we work on speaking and listening. Okay, interesting. And I guess that depends a lot on your teaching style and exactly what kind of materials and approach that you're taking there. Great. Okay. Well, as I mentioned, a few of us have already talked about, what I use with my own placement test and what I created in the first place for the Abridge Academy curriculum is this placement test. I'm going to screen share for you in just a moment. This is totally free. The link is in the description, as I said, to register for the bootcamp that gives you access to the free placement test. It's on the Abridge Academy website as well. If you just Google Abridge Academy, you can sign up for free and get access to this placement test. The placement test gives you the Abridge Academy level, so you can match it up with the curriculum. It also gives you the CEFR level, so even if you're not using the Abridge Academy lessons, you are still welcome to use this test, okay? It tells you what CFR level they are at, which is very useful to kind of compare against pretty much any other curriculum or textbook series or exams, all that kind of stuff, because they all tend to follow those benchmarks. And it also tells you what Cambridge exam would be most suitable for that student to be working towards. It's not like a formal, super complicated test. It's a quick quiz. It's fun, it's engaging, it's interactive, and I found it very helpful in assessing the level of the students within about 10 minutes or so at the beginning of the trial class. So do check out the link to get access to this. I'm just going to screen share the placement test. Is that sharing? Yes, it is. Perfect. Let me stick my face over here so it's out of the way. I'm not going to go through the whole test because I actually have another video that goes through it in a lot more detail, but just to give you an insight into what my placement tests involve, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. I'm not going to make it fully full screen because then my face blocks everything, because what we're using at the moment for the live stream is a bit inconvenient for this. Let's sort of put it that sort of size. There we go. Yeah, that's nice. So the placement test is, as I said, a quick test that assesses their level. Let's pick someone to be my student who's chatting a lot at the moment in the chat. Let's put Ivy, because Ivy was commenting with some nice things about the Abridge Academy placement test. Let's have Ivy from Super Teacher as my student, and then I put in my name as well. This is really helpful, by the way, for some of the personalization and stuff throughout the test. So I always start by sort of warming up the student, a bit of a opportunity to get to know them. Okay, we talked about the importance of building rapport, building connections. Don't jump straight in with a test. So this is an opportunity just for them to say a little bit about themselves, give you a quick introduction, and you can very roughly judge from this like very first stage whether they are complete beginner or they're at least able to give a self-introduction of some kind, how much detail they're able to give about their hobbies and things like that. So it gives you a quick insight as to your starting point. And then I jump straight into the test. So as you can see, we've got here Amy and Tom, who are the two characters, and they're saying hello, and Amy saying, "Are you ready, Ivy?" So greeting the student directly, let's go. So a bit of fun, as I teach kids, so they love all this sort of fun type stuff. And then the test is essentially just a series of quiz type questions, focusing mostly on vocabulary, some grammar points, and there's also some listening and reading exercises, things like that built in. And as we go through the test, I'll get the student to sort of look at the pictures or answer the questions, tell me what they can see. In this case, it's sort of looking at parts of the body, for example, so I get them to point to different parts of their body, act things out as we go. So it is a little bit more interactive and engaging. I personally use Koala Go as my teaching platform, which means the students can drag and drop and click on things themselves, which is great. They really enjoy that interactivity. But if you're not using an interactive teaching platform, this works just as well. What I'm doing right now with you guys, you can just screen share and ask the student to say the words, and then you drag and match things on their behalf, right? So there's all these kind of questions that the student can work through assessing their level. I'm not going to go through all of them because we'll be here all day. Now, depending on how well the student is doing, by the way, you could also just jump ahead. So if let's say in that warm-up part, they were doing really well and you could tell already, and also from the homework and stuff they sent you before the trial class or what you messaged with the parent, you knew they're already at a higher level, you could actually just jump straight ahead to the later section of the test. So rather than starting at pre-A1 level, if you know they're already like A2 or so, you could start at level A2 and go through the questions here. This was like a listening exercise. And we've got like a more of a grammar kind of question. Again, practicing some more complicated grammar, this kind of stuff. So you just work through the questions as you go. And you keep going through the test until the student gets sort of 2 or 3 wrong and they start making a few more mistakes. That's when you kind of feel like you've reached their level because the questions get steadily more difficult. When you think you've reached their level, you just click to the results section. And then at the end, you can check their score. In this case, we just picked some random questions. I only got 6 of them right. But you check their score according to the button at the top here. And then that tells you which trial class that links up with. It also tells you the Abridge Academy level, or my face is covering it. It also tells you the Abridge Academy level, the CFR level, and the relevant Cambridge exam that would be for them to work towards. Doesn't necessarily mean they met all those objectives, all of those skills they need to demonstrate in the exam yet, but it shows that's the exam they could be starting to prepare for if they're looking to do exams. Obviously, different students, some aren't interested in doing exams. You don't even need to mention it to them, but this is useful to pull up as a comparison. And then the placement test takes you directly to the trial class. Okay, so that was a very quick demo, but that just gives you a quick insight into what I do with this placement test. You see it's interactive, it's fun, and it's engaging, but ultimately it's assessing their level and making sure that they know vocabulary, grammar, speaking, listening, reading, writing, a whole range of different skills. Just have a quick look at the comments here. Katie's saying, my kids love being able to interact on Koala Go too. Yeah, it's a fantastic teaching platform. Highly recommend it. It's so much more engaging than if you're just screen sharing on something like Zoom. Ivy saying, love this. Thank you, Ivy. My students always end up with eyes wide open as it's the first time seeing their name on the screen. Always an amazing surprise. Parents love seeing it too. It's all those like small touches just help make that little bit of connection, a little bit more fun, a little bit more engaging that really helps sometimes with these trial classes. Alison saying, really love these trial classes because it's something fun to do in the class and it's helpful to the teacher, especially when you don't have a starting point. Thank you, Alison. Appreciate that feedback. And that's the thing, like, although it's a test, it doesn't feel like they're sitting down and taking a formal exam because it's bright, it's colourful, it's got things they can click on, things they can move on the screen, they're interacting with it. And there's you as a teacher being positive and enthusiastic and giving them star rewards and all that kind of stuff. So it feels like they're having a fun quiz rather than an actual assessment. In my experience, this placement test takes around 10 minutes with your student. It depends a bit on the student, obviously. I've had some students who will get through a good number of questions to be able to assess their level within like 5 minutes. Sometimes a student, if I've guessed the level wrong at the beginning, if based on the materials and messages they sent me beforehand, I thought they were at a different level to what they actually turned out to be, and they started struggling, so I had to jump back and redo a bit of a test, or I had to move them ahead or something. Can just take a little bit longer, but it is roughly around 10 minutes, I find, doing a placement test. I always keep a record of their results as well. I could just take a screenshot of the results page at the end, because that's then helpful to send to the parents afterwards as a quick insight into this is what level they're at, this is what they achieved. Shows that I'm being quite professional and organized about how I'm assessing their student, which they do really like. Katie saying, I think having a space for the child's name is important for connection. Yeah, simple thing, but they absolutely love it. I always start my class with a whiteboard slide that says hello name. Awesome, I love that. And yeah, it's a low-tech way to get that across as well, even if you're not using like these placement slides that automatically put it up for you. Cool. Okay, so that was the first part, the placement test. And the key point there really is helping the child feel a little more settled and building a bit of connection, but for you also to assess their level and know what you're going to then teach in the trial class bit, because if you don't know what level they're at, you don't know where to pitch your demo kind of section of the demo section, teaching bit, you know what I mean, the teaching section. You don't know what level to pitch at unless you've done that quick placement test beforehand. Okay, so let's move on to the second part of the trial class, which is the teaching demo or the teaching segment of this class. What do you think makes a good teaching demo in your trial class? Bear in mind, we probably only got about 15 minutes left at this point. I'm assuming people are doing 25-minute trials. I just realized that actually everyone teaches different lengths, so perhaps not. In my case, my classes are 25 minutes long. So I do 10 minutes of the placement test, 15 minutes or so for the actual trial class. Obviously, if you're teaching like hour-long classes normally, you just adjust those times accordingly. But what do you think makes a good teaching demo? I know we talked about this earlier to some extent, with people talked a lot about building rapport, building connections. Let me just scroll up and see what we talked about before: being prepared, being organized, having something you're actually teaching, encouraging, building relationships, all of those things. Grab some more water. My throat is, I don't know if I'm coming down with a sore throat or I'm just talking too much recently, but yeah, more water needed. Tell me in the chat, what do you think makes a good teaching demo? I'm gonna be honest, mostly it's just good teaching skills, but how can we make sure that's really clearly communicated in that demo? I'm also going to put up this comment from Amanda from earlier: an accurate demonstration of your teaching style. I do really want to emphasize this is super important. Make sure it actually reflects how you teach, how you like to teach. Do you use props? Do you use lots of encouragement? Do you have reward systems? Do you have what kind of lesson slides and materials do you normally use in your normal classes? You want that to match up with what you're doing in your teaching demo. All of that also being really important here too. I'd be saying 2 to 3 new words applied in a sentence and some kind of challenge, speaking or writing, to wrap it up with a reward. I love that. Nice and simple, and you've got a really clear kind of thing that they're going to achieve, right? At the end of that class, the student's going to know that they've learnt 2 or 3 words. So their mum says to them, Sarah, what did you learn today? Sarah's going to say, oh, I learnt these 3 words, because they've had that and reinforced that throughout the lesson. And as you say, like using it in some kind of sentences, depending on the level, whether you're working on basic sentence structures or that kind of thing, and then getting them to actually speak or write or do something, like producing language. Yes, very important. I love it. Alison saying you're using materials at a level they just tested. Absolutely. And this is why if you do sign up for the thing in the link below, the free version of ABridge Academy, you get access to the placement test and all these trial class materials. Those trial class materials are available in 5 different levels so that you can pick the relevant level suitable for the child. If you're teaching a different kind of niche, or you're preparing your own materials, make sure you have a choice of options depending on how well they've done in your initial assessment, because you don't want them to really struggle with the initial assessment, or you identify that the level is a little bit lower than you were planning, and then you move on to the trial class part and they can't engage with the materials properly. They don't understand what's going on because it's way too difficult for them. So definitely need to take that on board, their level. Engaging personality, yeah. So it's good teaching skills, being engaging, being enthusiastic, all of that kind of stuff. So as we were saying before, the purpose now of this section of the trial class, in terms of you as a teacher, what do you want to achieve? You want to show off your teaching skills. We've already said the importance of building rapport and confidence, being interactive, being engaging. All of this is just good teaching skills. Adapting around the student's level and pacing, which, as Alison was just mentioning earlier. I want to say also about that pacing thing. Depending on how long it took you to do the assessment, you may need to kind of either get through that teaching demo a bit quicker or have more time to explore in more depth some of the production production sections of that lesson. So make sure you've kind of given yourself some flexibility in your plan to adjust the pacing according to how well you're doing in terms of timings. You do want to finish your class on time, because if you overrun, you might be thinking, oh, if I overrun, I'm just, giving them more teaching opportunity, like more opportunities to learn. Like, surely parents love it if I overrun. Parents do not love it if you overrun. Parents get really annoyed if you overrun and then it affects what they were planning on doing next, or the kids late for dinner, or they're late for the next class they might have. For some of these kids, they take like lots and lots of classes some evenings. So do make sure that you finish on time. So you need to have materials, you need to have planned your class to be adaptable around how well the student's doing in the class as they go through, and your pacing. Ivy kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier about having like a clear learning objective. She mentioned about 2 or 3 new words, applying it in a sentence. One really key thing, they're going to come away and say, yes, this is what I've learned. Which links to that last point about demonstrating progress, right? They've achieved something and they know that they've achieved it, and the parent can see that they've achieved it. And all of that shows that you are a great teacher because you help the child achieve that key thing. I've added here, gentle corrections, managing their focus and learning attitude. Yeah, you're a teacher. You do need to correct. You need to help them make progress and show that you've identified something they struggled on. And it's important they do struggle with something. If the trial class is too easy, it means you got their level wrong. So there needs to be something they're going to find a little bit more challenging. You're going to help them with that, and they're going to make the progress and then see that they've achieved something. Fantastic. So I know I mentioned this, I didn't want this to be a whole big sales pitch because this is free stuff anyway, but just a little reminder about those free Age Academy trial class lessons. These are designed with all of these thoughts in mind. Like, a lot of thought went into preparing these lessons to make sure they met all of those objectives, all of those things we've been talking about. So they're available in different levels, they're interactive, they're fun. The activities are designed to be flexible. So if you do find that the student is slightly out of the level you thought they were at, you can adjust the way that you teach these activities. You can also quite easily adjust the pacing. You can easily skip sections of the class without it's being noticeably affecting the student's progress against those key learning objectives. And they also end with integrated feedback and certificates. And we've not really talked about that yet so far, but that is super important when it comes to the end of the trial class. And so celebrating your students' achievements and pointing the parent in the direction of what the child's going to learn next. All of this is super, super helpful. So trial class materials already include that built-in feedback and the student certificates. I am going to quickly show you one example of this. And again, I'm not going to go through it in loads of detail because I have other videos that go through in more detail, like step by step, every single bit of the slide, because we'll be here too long if we go into too much detail. But I hope it gives you a bit of an idea. Hang on, switch the screen share. Hope this will give you a bit of an idea in terms of what I mean by lessons that are adaptable, flexible, interactive, engaging, all of that kind of stuff. So this one is just level 2 trial class. So this is like pre-A1 level, relatively simple. They're just starting to be able to build up simple sentences, focusing a lot on speaking skills, that kind of thing. And as we already mentioned earlier, the importance of that personalization. Let's put Ivy in again, and Katie. Put your name in at the beginning here, and then it means the last slides get personalized according to your student. We also have some kind of warm-up here. If this is, that's intended just in case you haven't done the placement test beforehand. If you've already done the placement test, you can skip the warm-up and go straight to the instruction section. Who was it earlier? Someone mentioned about the importance of tech. Can't remember who it was now, but someone mentioned about the importance of like helping your student with tech, making sure they're confident with the teaching platform tools. This first section of the trial class here is really focusing on that. So the instructional section will help them just practice using some basic functionality within your teaching platform. If you're using a non-interactive teaching platform, you will adjust how you teach these according to what you want the student to do with these activities instead. So for example, clicking, you might say want them to circle on the screen if you're like screen sharing on Zoom or something like that. Alternatively, you can just completely skip this section. If during the warm-up, you've done the warm-up bit, you can jump straight to the new word section by clicking on the tabs on the right-hand side. So if you don't want to do the instructional bit because you know your teaching platform doesn't have that functionality, you can skip that quite easily. But because I'm using interactive platform Koala Go, I want the students to know how to click. So I'll get them to practice clicking on the screen and saying the word click. It all sounds very basic, but it just helps build that confidence and make sure they know what they're doing. Same with this bit here, they've got to drag the words into the boxes. And they start to become familiar with, okay, this symbol of a hand sort of floating means that something is draggable on the screen, and this is how I drag with my teaching platform. They can practice it. And then drawing with the annotation tools, and they can practice drawing things on the screen. They're all very basic, but it's just getting to practice and build confidence with that. And it also shows off what teaching platform you're using. If you've got something that's super interactive, the parents love seeing that and seeing what kind of things you can actually do in your classes. Then there's like a new words kind of section. Again, this is because it's quite a lower level lesson, this particular one. So it's just learning a few keywords and then practicing some simple sentences. So they've got some new words they're going to learn. I would recommend having some props and fun things you can show as well during this section of the class. I actually had a student recently who I did this trial class with, and actually no, it was one of the later, I think it was a level 5 trial actually they did, but it was one that was also about animals, and they had like their own animal costume. I was like, how did this kid know that we are going to be doing this topic in the trial class? Crazy. It was a complete coincidence. They happen to have the level 5 trial class mentions polar bears. It's about kind of global warming, the impact of global warming on like polar bears, that kind of thing. And they had like an actual legit polar bear outfit just hanging around next to them, like randomly. I hadn't told the parents what to expect before this trial class. So I was very surprised by this. So he puts on his little like, not bunny ears, like polar bear ear things, and he had a sort of fluffy jumper thing that looked like a polar bear fleece. It was amazing. But yeah, if you can plan it yourself and have like some soft toys perhaps of these animals and things, can help make that a bit more fun. And they're going to practice what animals can you see, and then they're going to learn the words for different patterns that they're going to use to describe the animals, and then they're going to sort into the different patterns. And at this point, there becomes more opportunities you see for speaking and listening practice. So you'll notice that the slides are kind of relatively simple. There's not a huge amount of text and things on the slide, and it's left up to you to adapt how you want to teach that according to exactly what the student might want to be focusing more on. So you might find the students still struggling just with the words for the animals, or they just really want to focus here on the words for the pattern, like stripy or spotty, spots and stripes. And they're not yet ready to make sentences. They just need to kind of get those two words, spots, stripes, spots, stripes. You just get to repeat those words, right? Or if they're already a little bit more advanced and you can tell that they're capable of making short sentences, you could at this point start getting them to say, it has spots, it has stripes. Or even mention the names of the different animals. The dog has spots, the tiger has stripes, the peacock has spots, and so on. So a little bit more flexible there. Depending on your timing, you can jump ahead to later sections, by the way. So if you feel like you're kind of short on time and the students kind of got the idea at this point, you can just jump straight ahead to the grammar section by clicking on that on the right-hand side. But here we've got like a guessing activity, focusing on one of the animals they've learned, which is tiger. You can probably guess from the silhouette here. And there's these little hints. It is big, it has small ears, it is orange, it's black stripes. Depending on the student, you can either get them to focus on reading it out if you know they're kind of capable of doing some reading, you want to focus a bit on the reading practice, or you can say it to the student, again, very flexible and adaptable around how you teach it. And then you click and reveal the animal. Yes, it's a tiger. And there's another one that's kind of similar about giraffes. So a little bit of practice there, just focusing on the new words. Then they move on to some grammar, and we learn I have, it has. And there's some quick exercises here, that's sort of grammar exercises. It is tall, it has brown spots, and a long neck. And again, this shows a bit of that flexibility again. So depending on the level, you could just highlight this bit here, it has. I have, it has, and just focus on that. Don't even bother reading the rest of it. I have, it has. It, is that has or have? Just getting to focus on that. Or if you can tell they are a bit more advanced, you can say, okay, long neck. What's a neck? Point to your neck. Okay, can you circle the neck on the screen? What's this? This is the neck. Is it short or is it long? And get them to practice some of those adjectives and descriptions as well. So some flexibility in terms of how you teach these and what you want to focus on according to the student's understanding of things. And again, because this grammar point is pretty simple, like it's just one really key thing. I have, it has, that's it. If you need to, you can easily jump ahead to the end, even if you only had like 1 or 2 minutes to cover the first couple of slides in this section, because they've got that key learning objective just in those couple of slides. This is just reinforcement and consolidating those same ideas. I have, it has, little quiz. And things here you can see that they can click on, there's things that they can drag on the screen, there's things they can click, there's things they can circle. They're practicing that interactivity and that sort of engagement in the class. And then we get to more speaking practice here. I always like to build in speaking throughout the classes, by the way, so even if it doesn't call itself a speaking slide, when I can see things on the screen, I always get them to describe the pictures, say what they can see, what colour is it big, is it small, like what can you see, because that just helps to keep them talking. That's something I think a lot of the parents want to see, is that the child is getting as much speaking practice and opportunity to produce language as they can. But there are, of course, dedicated speaking focused slides as well, like this one. Describe the animals, click to show a random animal. Make a look at the picture. What is it? It's a giraffe. Is it tall? Is it short? Big? Small? Spots? Stripes? What body parts does it have? And again, very adaptable depending on whether the student understands all that vocabulary or not. They can give more detail, they can give less detail. Ideally, you want them speaking in full sentences, but if they can't manage it, just get them to say single words. Again, adaptable how you teach it, depending on the level and understanding of the student. And this is something, again, you can either do one objective, or if you've got lots of time left in the class, you can do lots of another animal. There we go, elephant, and so on. So that's just a very quick run through. Again, I'm not going to go through in detail of all of these, just because I have got separate videos that go into more depth exactly what to do on every single section, but it just gives you an idea of the key idea that I want to get across, which is that it's short, one really key learning objective, lots of interactivity, but has the flexibility to jump sections if you need to, which I think is really important for the timekeeping and for the student feeling like they're making progress, not endlessly repeating things, depending on their level of their understanding as you go. And then at the end of the trial class, I always end with this review section. So we summarize the key things that they've learnt, and sort of celebrate how well they're doing. On Koala Go, you can give the students stars, by the way. So each time the student gets something right, I'm giving them stars. And at the end here, when they do this review bit, once they got all of these correct, I do that confetti celebratory thing on Koala Go, which is a nice sort of fun celebration. They really enjoy that. But you have some kind of summary at the end, just wrapping up and reviewing and consolidating those key ideas. Again, it's demonstrating progress, showing exactly what they've achieved. And then we end with a feedback section. So this is something that's built into all the Abridge Academy lessons, and I also make sure it's also included in these trial class slides, which is an opportunity to wrap up with the students and show them exactly what they've done today. And of course, you can then send this to the parents as well. So it's a nice sort of easy layout. It takes you about 5 seconds to do, well, about 2 minutes if you're talking about it as you go. But you can rate the student against these key learning objectives, tell them what they did really well, and there's a space there to write a personal comment. Then you just take a screenshot, and that's your feedback all sorted. I'm going to show you a little bit more in the third session, a much more detailed feedback template that we've also got to accompany the trial class slides, and talk more about that in terms of the follow-up if you've got parents who don't make that purchase straight away. But yeah, in terms of what's built into the slides, this kind of feedback is super, super helpful for you to directly give feedback to the student and to their parents at the end of the trial class. Then, of course, pre-made certificates. Students absolutely love these. Take a little screenshot, send it through to them, and they love just printing out, sticking it on their fridge, sharing it on their social media accounts with their friends to celebrate what their child has learnt. I don't know, they love certificates for some reason, so always make sure those are included at the end of these trial classes. Okay, and there we go. Well done. See you next time. So that is just a very quick overview of one of those trial class materials. As I said, there's 5 different levels available, so this gives you a whole choice of different options. They cover different topics, different sort of learning objectives, of course, depending on the level. But do check those out. The link is in the description. I'm going to put it in the chat as well. If you just Google Abridge Academy, it will take you to the homepage. But if you go to abridgeacademy.com, then there's an option there to register for free. Register for free, you get access to the placement test and to those trial class slides, and a whole bunch more materials as well. So do sign up for that if you haven't already. If you're not teaching kids or something and these aren't that suitable for your niche, don't worry. Hopefully that gave you some insights into ideas of how you can sort of plan your trial class materials and structure your content, because I think the kind of core concepts there still hold for other niches and topics as well. Okay, let me have a quick look at the chat because I was kind of ignoring you guys, sorry. Gillian here saying, tuning in late, no worries. I love this, and I love that you have both accent. Yes, if you look at the vocab sections of the slides, there's both the British and the American audio available, because depending on your own accent, depending on what the students might want to learn, it gives you a choice in terms of what you want to teach. Do you have something for placement test? Yes, we do. You just missed that, Gillian. Zip back earlier and you'll see the bit about the placement test. There is a free placement test that you do before the trial class slides. That's it's super interactive and fun and engaging kind of quiz-like thing you do in like the first 10 minutes of the trial class. Then those trial class slides that I just shared that you saw are for like the next 10, 15 minutes or so of the trial class. So yes, there's a placement test as well. It's on your Abridge Academy dashboard. You can check that out. I love the feedback slides. Thank you. Yes, I've got those feedback slides are now across almost all of the Abridge Academy core curriculum lessons. They're all of level 1, level 4, and level 5. I'm slowly working on updating levels 2 and 3 because they're a bit older, and I haven't yet got around to doing all of the updates into the new format. But over the last year, we launched those feedback slides along with their new lesson templates just over a year or so ago now. I think it was last September that those launched. So yes. parents absolutely love it, and it saves so much time in terms of giving feedback at the end of lessons. And yeah, they're on the trial class slides as well. Alice saying, these are so great. I never thought of trials, much less daunting. Thank you. I'm glad you found these helpful. And by the way, we've still got the key secret to success at the end, so stick around because we've got a little bit more to cover, which is going to be super, super helpful in terms of making those sales at the end of the trial class. Kids saying, yeah, my kids love to listen to both accents, lol. Yeah, that's great. For me personally, as you can probably tell, I've got a British accent, but I have some students who are more used to the American pronunciation of things, so they like to be able to hear both. Which is quite interesting. Although I mostly tend to attract the parents who want a British accent just because that's why they've picked me as opposed to an American teacher. But it's good having those options available. Okay, so that's a bit of an idea then of the trial class. But what I want to kind of quickly move on to and end with today is my key secret to success in terms of actually selling in the trial class. Because everything we've done so far, giving you useful information by assessing their level, and it's demonstrating your teaching skills. But how do we actually sell? I want you guys to have a quick message me in the comments. Have a quick guess. What do you think my biggest secret to success is? Or if you're not sure, what do you do at the end of the trial class? So once you've got to that feedback slide or whatever it is that you do normally at the end of trial classes, what do you do before you close down the teaching platform and leave? Have a guess. And it's interesting because I asked in our Facebook group, I think it was about maybe 4 or 5 days ago, just as we're coming up to this boot camp, asked people what their tips were. What do they do in terms of successful trial classes? And actually, one person did mention this, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. Someone else does this too, which is fantastic to see. But yeah, I'm wondering if anyone in the chat here can guess what is my biggest secret to success? What do I do at the end of the trial class to really make that sale? This, by the way, had a massive impact in terms of my trial class conversion rates. Before I was doing this, my trial class conversions weren't bad. I like to think I'm a decent teacher, that parents could get a good enough idea of my classes and they liked me or whatever, and they would sign up. But once I started doing this at the end of the trial class, huge impact in terms of basically every single class now converts. So what is my secret to success? I think I've stumped you guys. The comments have gone quiet. What do you do at the end of the class? Alice is saying, I'm guessing you encourage them to sign up today. Yes, that is definitely a very important part of it. Encourage them to sign up today. On that note, who am I encouraging to sign up? If you're teaching, say, I don't know, a 10-year-old child, is the 10-year-old child going to be the one with their credit card out ready to buy? This, by the way, is probably slightly different if you're teaching adults, but I teach kids and teens. So who am I encouraging to sign up? I feel like I'm building too much suspense here. Melody's saying, telling the parent how the kid did, how they improved. Yes, exactly. It's the parent. It's the parent we need to sell to. Everything we've done so far is just you with the kid, and probably the parent is sat next to them, because a lot of parents do sit on these trial classes and get an idea of what teachers are like. But I have had parents who disappear off. So what I do before the end of the trial class is get the parent back. Okay, this is your opportunity to talk to them directly, give them that feedback, and make the sale. Yeah, everyone's saying now, parents, get the mum on board. Exactly. So that was my key thing at the end. So I'll ask you this question already. There we go. Talk to the parents directly. So as I said, but I didn't used to do this, because when I taught with Palfish before, that was the first kind of big ESL company I used to teach with, they just told us at the end of the trial class, just close the class and go. You kind of went through the lesson, you followed the slides, you read off their script, thank you very much, goodbye. And then you just leave and quickly go to your next class. You didn't get fined for being late or whatever. And this, they encouraged you after the class to send messages to the parents to follow up. But they didn't encourage us to talk to parents directly at the end. And I still have no idea why they didn't do that, because this has had the biggest impact in terms of sales. I'm guessing they probably figured that maybe teachers wouldn't be that confident with the sales side. I don't know. But as an independent teacher, this really is your opportunity to talk to the parent. So I call back the mum or the dad, whoever's with them, and I say, look, if the kids' mum's run off, I'll say, like, is your mum there? Could you bring them over to have a quick chat? Thank you very much. Really great to teach you. Is your mum there? And then I show them that feedback slide that we just had earlier, and I show them, this is what we did today. This is what your child learned. Sometimes, depending on which lesson they did, they might have a bit of work they've produced that I can show as well. So if it's, I want to say the level 5 one's got like a short writing exercise or something in it. So I might show them this is what they wrote, this is what they put together. And then I'll also make sure I give them thing that they need to work on. So I'll say to the parent, this is the feedback, this is what they did really well. This is what I noticed. So in the placement test, they struggle with these bits. Or in the trial class, I think they could give a little bit more detail, more extended sentences when they answer questions. Or I noticed they're making a few kind of grammatical mistakes in their speaking. And although, of course, grammatical accuracy isn't the most important thing when it comes to communication, I do think that's something they could gradually work on, particularly when it came to the past tense. Something like that. So I give them some specific feedback, what do they do really well, and a couple of key things I noticed that they're going to work on going forwards. That then links into the plan for future classes. So I'll say, because I noticed they were at this level in the placement test, this is what they struggle with, this is what I recommend we do next. And I'll show them. So with the Able Academy curriculum, which is obviously what I use, is what I created, and is therefore what I use for my own students, I will show them this is what the curriculum is. I'll pull up the parents' guides, which are also linked under those trial class lessons, by the way. I'll pull up the parents' guide in their language, and I'll say this is what the curriculum is all about. The lessons will look just like the one you saw in the trial class there, and this is what they're going to focus on in level 4, whatever it was that they kind of got placed at with the placement test. And then I will talk to them about how to purchase. That, by the way, this whole bit here is about 3 minutes, not super in depth. It's like 1 or 2 sentences of feedback, quick thing about what I think they should work on. This is the level we're going to move on to next. This is what it's about. Don't worry, Mum, if you've got any questions, I'm going to send you this later for you to have a look at. And I'll promise to send them the PDF with a much more detailed breakdown of the curriculum for them to browse in their own time later. But I just made sure they've had a quick insight into what they're going to be learning. Then we've got how to purchase. Now, when it comes to selling actual classes, I use Super Teacher. I don't know if anyone else here uses Super Teacher. We've seen Ivy in the chat who runs Super Teacher. Super Teacher is amazing, absolutely incredible. Let me send you my link to sign up, because you guys, if you haven't registered yet, you need to sign up. So what I actually do is I screen share my Super Teacher profile. I'm just going to put the link in the chat to Super Teacher in case anyone's missed this incredible, amazing booking system that you guys really need to check out. But on Super Teacher, the parents can choose the class package that they want. They can click buy now and they can purchase, right? And although this seems quite straightforward, okay, all you have to do is send them a link and they click buy now. Some parents they need showing, okay? They need showing what to do. So I'll literally pull up, in fact, I'll show you right now. Where's my profile gone? Screen share this tab. Right, so here's my Super Teacher profile. So I'll literally share this page and say, look, this is my profile, okay? This is my beautiful face. This is my video. And I tell the parents, don't be distracted about all this other stuff. Don't worry about that. The key thing I want you to do is click on this button here. And I show them, depending on what they came about from the trial class, I might say, okay, I think the one-on-one classes are the best option. So you're going to click one-on-one. And in fact, if they are one of these languages here, I'll say, I'm going to put this in Chinese for you so you can understand what to see. And I'll show them how to turn the language into Chinese. Sounds very simple to us, but some parents are somewhat lacking in the observation skills, I find. So I show them, this is how you change the interface language to Chinese. Oh, look, magic. Now it's all in Chinese, so you can understand everything. Isn't that great? Awesome. And I'll show them, okay, this is my profile. This is how you purchase. This is the calendar. And I'll show them, this is what I recommend you click on. I'll even show them directly. Hang on, let me just go back to, where were we? Oh, wait, it stopped. Oh, okay. I'll show them directly. This is the package that I recommend. I think your child needs 30 classes, so buy the 30 class package. Or I think we should start off with a small package to start with, and I recommend 10 classes is a good starting point. So I'll tell them what I suggest they purchase, and I'll show them exactly where to click and how to make the purchase. I'll even talk them through the checkout process. I'm not going to do that right on the screen right now, just because I don't know if it's going to put in my card details or something. I don't really want that publicly all over YouTube. But I'll take them to the purchase page. And I'll show them, this is where you put in either your card details, this is how you pay by WeChat Pay, this is how you pay by Alipay, and I'll make sure the parent is nodding and understanding what to do. And because I've had a few parents have the odd issue here and there, I'll say things like, make sure you open this on a computer, and then use your phone to scan the QR code. And I'll mind that. I'll show my phone, I'll say, look, open up the WeChat app, click on the scan button, the scan with the phone camera, and I'll demonstrate that to them. Because that's something that trips up a few of the parents that I've had before. So just showing them that process gives them so much more confidence in terms of knowing where to click when it comes to making a purchase. And yes, I have a little video that I pre-recorded for them. Ivy's made some fantastic video tutorials and a detailed PDF guide and all of that showing that process for parents, which is great to also send them after the trial class. But if I can actually show them face to face, that has a huge, huge impact in terms of them actually understanding and actually paying attention, because let's be honest, you can send them all kinds of things, but if they don't click on the video to watch it, or they don't open the PDF file with the information, they still won't understand what to do. So I always just make sure to show that to them. I'm not sure why it stopped the screen sharing. Let me just go back to, where was I? Share screen. Trial classes, that's cell. What do you mean you lost permissions to share? Oh gosh. Hang on. Tech problems here, guys. Chrome tabs, share screen. There we go. Sorry, it pops up some weird message about how I've like lost permission to share my screen. There we go. So yeah, I get the parents on board, I go through all of this stuff, give them all that detailed feedback, and I show them exactly how to purchase. And I don't make this long and complicated, and I'm not necessarily expecting to buy right now while we're on the call. I'm just making sure they understand how to purchase. And the language, the way that I explain it to them, we're like, if you're ready to make a purchase, this is how you do it. Don't worry, I'll send you the link after the class. So they don't feel pressured, but they can see what to do. And the key thing I've got at the bottom here as well is tell, don't ask. So don't ask the parent, what did you think of the trial class? You can ask that to the student, because the student will always say, yes, it was great. But like, don't tell the parent, did you like my classes? Because the parent's going to be feeling a bit awkward. Yeah, I guess it was all right. Yeah. And don't ask the parent, what do you think the kid wants to work on? No, you are the teacher. You are the expert here. This is what the kid is going to work on next. This is what we are going to do. Like, be confident, tell them what the plan is going forward in terms of classes. You could say to them, if you think the plan that you're suggesting disagrees with what they'd originally proposed, like maybe, like I've had it before, where I've had parents reach out to me and they know I offer like debating classes, which are for more advanced students. So they'll reach out to me and they'll say, oh yeah, my child wants debating classes. And I'll say, okay, great, we'll do a trial class. And then in the trial class, I'll assess their level and I'll be like, in the placement test, they tested at level A1. Like, I'm sorry, but they're just not going to be able to engage well with the debating lessons. But I know that you really wanted debating because you want to focus on speaking practice, right? So that's the question I'll ask the parent. Did you want to focus on the speaking practice? That was the key thing. And the parent will nod and say, oh, yeah, it's the speaking practice, really. They're not actually going to be entering in competitive debates. We just want them to get more advanced, like in-depth speaking practice. So they'll say, oh, no worries. In which case, I think the plan works well for this. I propose we focus on level 3 of the core curriculum, and we're going to particularly draw out the speaking activities and go more in depth on those. How does that sound? And in which case, because they're being confident, you presented it clearly to them, they're going to nod along, yes, great. How do I buy? And then you show them how to buy. So I know that was me, my kind of monologue there, but hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea in terms of that conversation to do at the end. And don't be afraid of getting the parents over and giving them that feedback and showing them that process of purchasing, because it does have a huge impact in terms of actually selling. Katie's here saying, if the English level isn't good, they won't understand during a live class you try and talk. I talk to them on WeChat. Now, this is something I'm going to be honest with you, I have a bit of an advantage in the sense that I can have that entire conversation with a parent in Chinese. I get that probably most teachers aren't in that position. This is one of the reasons I do recommend targeting a not demographic, what's the word? Like a market, that's the word I'm looking for. Targeting a market where you do speak the local language, because then you can have those conversations without the language barrier, which can really, really help. My Chinese isn't perfect, but it's good enough to be able to explain this sort of thing. And I've practiced, I've practiced my this is how to pay kind of demonstration in Chinese to kind of make sure that can be done smoothly without me umming and ahhing and forgetting important words for like key things. But yeah, if you can't speak the parents' language, I do find that many parents still do have a reasonable English level. You would need to adapt a bit in terms of how you present this, right? So for example, you screen share that feedback, and you don't need to give really detailed thing. You can just say, the grammar was great. The speaking was fantastic. The writing was maybe we can improve on that next time. Great. Okay, like they can normally, most parents, if they're quite internationally minded and they're getting their child to want to take English classes online, many of the parents, at least in my experience that I've worked with, will be able to understand at least A1 to A2 level English. So saying things like grammar, vocabulary, new words, good. Like they've got that to some extent. And in terms of the plan for future classes, that's why I screen share, when I talk about the ABH Academy lessons, I'll screen share the parents guide in Chinese or in their language so they can see. I mostly work with Chinese parents, so I put up the Chinese one, but we have the guide available in a whole load of other languages as well. I think there's 8 languages up so far, and they've all been like properly translated by native speakers or professional translators. So, they're like legit, not just Google translated. So yeah, you can pull up those kind of materials for them as well. And in terms of that purchase decision, like purchase process, it's mostly showing them on the screen. So it's like, as long as you're screen sharing, you can show it to them. It's relatively easy enough to communicate, just simplifying your language and communicating things clearly. And yeah, I would say that's probably around a third of the parents that I work with, maybe even half, speak almost fluent English anyway. So again, it depends on who you're targeting, what your target market is, as to whether they'll be able to have those conversations in English. Okay, just seeing there's like a whole bunch of comments I've missed. Okay, Gillian's saying, always tell them for future planning too. Instead of just giving feedback, this is what we're doing next, and this is the point to work towards. Exactly, things to work on. I know this is, some people disagree with this. I actually don't think the child should be perfect in the trial class. I think you should get to the end of the trial class and still have a clear thing that they still need to work on a bit further. Because that way you can quite easily say to the parents, I really stretched and challenged them. They did great at these things, but we could really make some much longer sentences here. Or I think they can speak in a more formal way. Like I remember like the 5th trial class looking at global warming, there's a bit where they make like a little poster about global warming or something. Maybe the feedback I gave to one parent recently was that this kid did amazing. So I said, I think maybe you can work a bit more on like formal language, using things like the passive voice to communicate things in a more formal way. I think that's something we can work on next time. So even if you think they did incredibly well, there's always something. Like make sure you've been challenging them and stretching them in terms of how you extend upon materials throughout the class. Because yes, they need to have things to work on too. Wendy's saying, I have to admit, I usually WeChat them afterwards, but I'm going to talk directly with them in the classroom. Great. I hope this suggestion helps you, and I really hope that has an impact in terms of your conversion rates, because I find it really helps. It's also not just about selling. It's also about them getting to see you and actually talk to you directly, because as much as you can message back and forth, I think sometimes being able to talk face to face, not only does it mean you've built the rapport with the student in the trial class, but it means you had that opportunity to build rapport and connection with the parent as well. And they start to kind of trust and like you as a person, which is something that's quite important, rather than you just being some like faceless teacher that they send their kid off to have classes with online and then they don't really pay attention. So I think it does help as well with that personal connection too. Alison, nothing about parents who don't feel confident speaking English. Yeah, as I say, for me personally, I speak Chinese, so that makes it a lot easier when I'm targeting Chinese parents. If you don't speak their first language, simplifying your language, communicating in a more visual way, and pulling up translated like summaries and resources for them that they can look at in their own language. Teresa's saying, if the parents speak English, I speak with them, fantastic. If not, I use Copilot to translate and send info to them. Awesome. And actually, you could even do that while you're chatting to them directly. Like, let's say they speak a relatively, like, okayish level of English. You've got the basic communication there, but there's some things you're struggling to communicate. Pull up Google Translate. Pull up, like, a translation tool and just quickly translate the sentence you wanted to say, so that they can kind of understand what you're saying there. I know it feels a bit clunky, but it's got the message across. I was saying, Katie, that's brilliant, your after-class comments. Thank you. I hope this helps. Ooh. Katie's saying, I love Super Teacher. We all love Super Teacher here. It's a fantastic platform for automating like the sales process, the booking process, all of that kind of stuff. It is amazing. Lots of love here for Super Teacher. Yeah, really great platform. If you're wanting to simplify like the admin side, the parents can just pay by themselves. They can book the classes by themselves. It's all a nice automated calendar system. They can reschedule classes if necessary. They can manage their class credits. All this cool stuff. It's amazing. Love it. Ivy saying, thank you so much for the shout out. Yes, Super Teacher's awesome. We love you, Ivy. Katie saying, also share recorded instruction video. Yeah, I find though that parents don't always watch it. I made an instruction video showing them like this is how to purchase in particular, because that was something I was finding some parents didn't quite understand. They just still don't always watch it. Like they'll send me a message afterwards. This before I was doing this, before I was actually talking to them directly and showing them the process. Or occasionally I've had parents who literally haven't been there. Like I've had a few students who are like international schools, so they're at boarding school, right? So the parents aren't around because I'm in a different country. In which case I haven't been able to get the parents on board at the end, and I've sent them like the recorded instruction, and then they'll send me a message. They'll be like, "Did you not watch the video I just sent?" Because I answered it in the video I just sent, and the parent will be like, "Oh yeah, I'll have a look at that now." Yeah, I was saying, yeah, switch the language. Super Teacher their local language, absolutely, definitely. Another tip, by the way, so Super Teacher's already like properly translated into definitely Chinese, Korean, Spanish, and English. I think are the options. Correct me if I'm wrong. But if they speak a different language, change your browser language into their language, like before your class. Plan this in advance, and then you can use the Google Translate extension on Google Chrome to just translate everything on the page anyway. It won't be perfect because Google Translate, as we know, is a bit iffy, but it does help to at least show things in their language on the screen. Katie saying, do you think Abridge Academy will work for non-ESL students? It's designed for ESL students. I know some teachers who've used things like some of the phonics materials with kids who are learning to read, like native speaking kids who are learning to read, that kind of thing. And I've had a few teachers mention, oh, this would be great for like some of the students who are struggling with sort of some of the grammar points of things. Like even native speakers have to learn grammar, so sometimes some teachers have found those materials helpful. And with the debating classes, which I didn't really talk much about today, this was more showing the process for my standard ESL classes, but the debating lessons I have used with native speaking students before, quite a while back, like 2 or 3 years back when I was teaching when I was at school quite a lot. I used to teach those debating classes, and I had lots of non-ESL students who were loving those lessons. So you can, but I would say that the core curriculum is designed for ESL students. So yeah, it's have a look, see if it suits your students, and see if it's interesting for them. I know we've talked quite a lot actually about some of the phonics materials and things like that as well already, but I'm always happy to answer questions too if anyone's got any questions about the materials. Like today's session is not meant to be a big sales pitch, don't worry. But if you do want to learn more about Abridge Academy, I'm always happy to answer any questions. Mandy's saying, do you start class on Super Teacher, Koala Go, or something else? Oh, so the trial class I don't use Super Teacher for. I know this is, Ivy, your system's wonderful. I do love Super Teacher, but I do think it's a little bit complicated to do it for the parents to sign up before the trial class, because you're not there to show them the process of how to register an account. Again, it's quite simple to register an account. It's not complicated, but some parents do struggle to, I don't know, read or something. So like it's easier, like minimize the barrier to entry. I don't use the Super Teacher booking system for my trial classes. I just send the parent the link in the chat, like the Koala Go link. So I'll be messaging them normally on WeChat because I work with Chinese parents. So I'll send them a link and say, this is the link to join the class. And then they can click and they go straight to the Koala Go classroom. That's what I do for the trial classes. And on that point, we mentioned a bit on Monday. I'm not sure if you joined us on Monday, Mandy, but on Monday we talked about the importance of quick communication and getting parents in the trial class as quickly as possible. So getting students in the trial class as quickly as possible. I've had students who within like less than an hour, even like 15 minutes of starting the conversation and asking me about classes, then actually be physically sat in my trial class having a lesson. That's only possible because I just send them the direct link and be like, are you around now for a trial class? Here's the link, and then they can tune in. So yeah, trial class, I do just directly send them the Koala Go link. If you're not using Koala Go, using a different like classroom platform, whatever, to send them the link to your classroom platform so they can join, as a student. When it comes to the actual classes, like once they've started like paying for like a whole package of classes, that kind of thing, that's all done and automated by Super Teacher. Absolutely love it. They can then manage the schedule and stuff like that. Super Teacher sends them a reminder email for the class. I'm going to be honest with you, quite a lot of my students don't look at their emails very often. Or they've registered, like the parents registered their email, not the child. So the child who's like, particularly the kids who are at a boarding school or something, they don't get the email because they're not with the parent. So for them, I just also send them a message on WeChat, just be like, just a reminder, we've got class today. Here's the link again. And I tell them the link always stays the same. Like Koala Go is a fixed link, so they don't have to remember a different link. I just tell them to bookmark that link, and then they can save it and easily join the class, any future class that they've scheduled. But yeah, Super Teacher I use for the bookings, and that really, really helps. Okay, so yeah, that's the idea of talking to parents at the end of the trial class, wrapping things up, giving that feedback, telling them the plan, and showing them how to purchase. That's super, super important to get across. Right, I'm going to wrap things up here because we've now run over time. So thank you so much, everyone, for sticking around. I hope you found this helpful. So as a sort of summary of the key things we've talked about in today's session, talked about focusing on selling, not just teaching. I showed you those Abridge Academy materials. Of course, they're not going to be suitable for everyone, but if you're teaching ESL students, particularly if you're teaching kids, do check out those. There's a free version available. I've mentioned it a few times, but do sign up for the free version. You get the placement test, the trial classes, a bunch more lessons as well. Also the feedback templates, the certificates, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to talk more about the feedback actually next time because I've got an even more detailed and super valuable feedback template that's helpful for following up with parents who haven't converted, and I'll talk more about that on Friday's session. But yeah, do check those out if you haven't already. And finally, we also really emphasize that key thing about talking to the parents directly at the end and making sure that they know what the plan is. You've communicated that clearly to them, and you've also shown them how to purchase. So I've got a question for you guys. What was your key take-home idea? What did you find particularly helpful or insightful in today's session? Is there anything that stood out to you? I always love to hear. Let me know what stood out to you. And while you're commenting, I'm just going to remind you again, this is session 2 of the bootcamp. So do remember to join again, same time, same place on Friday for session 3 about the follow-up with parents. Particularly important if you have struggled with parents just ghosting you after trial class. So you've had a trial class, you think it's gone well, the kid engaged, and then the parents just never bother messaging you back. So that's session 3, how to avoid that and how to follow up with those parents afterwards. So do make sure you tune in on Friday for that. The link is in the description to register for the email reminders, so you'll get a notification when we go live. So do check that out. And of course, as I mentioned already, do check out those free materials included with the free version of Abridge Academy. I showed you the placement test and the trial class slides, some examples of those today. It's free, so sign up. It's not a free trial or anything like that. It's totally free forever. No time limits on access or anything like that. No need to put in your card details or anything. So just register for free, get this free stuff, enjoy it with your students. Hope that helps you with your trial classes. So yeah. The link is in the description. I'm also going to put the link again in the chat just in case anyone's missed it. Just go to abridgeacademy.com. Or you can just Google Abridge Academy and these will pop up. So Google Abridge Academy and you'll be able to access all of these things for free. Yay! Do love a good freebie. Okay, let's go back to that question that I gave you guys then. What was your key take-home message today? What did you learn? Andy's saying, I did join Monday. I guess I didn't realize Koala Go didn't have a sign up. Yeah, so with Koala Go, when they open it up, they open the web browser, they don't have to download anything, which is great because again that's a barrier to entry and getting them in the trial class if they've got to download software or anything like that. So with Koala Go, they just open the link, done. They put in their name, so it's not really registering. They don't have to verify their email address or anything like that. They're not creating an account. They just put in their name and click join class or something, and then it goes into the classroom. Well, it goes into like the waiting room, and then I add them to the classroom when I'm actually ready for them to be in the class, of course. But yeah, they don't have to do a whole complicated registration process. So it is ideal for that point of view. I know some teachers use other teaching platforms like ClassIn, for example. I don't like ClassIn anyway, but a big issue with it is that they have to like download the software, install it on their computer, create an account, figure out how to log in, add you, and like be connected. Like, takes forever. Okay, complicated. So Koala Go, very, very simple. Click on the link, join the class, done. So I like to keep the trial classes as straightforward as possible because, yeah, reduce barriers to entry is super important. Mandy's saying you need to learn more about it. Koala Go. If you go to Abridge Academy and click on the Koala Go guide, there's a link to get your first month for free. So highly recommend. I do love Koala Go. It's amazing. And they have some really, really helpful workshops for teachers when you first sign up for Koala, showing you like how to use it with your students and that kind of thing. Super interactive, super engaging, super kid friendly, very easy to use. Absolutely love it. So yeah, do check out Koala Go. I highly recommend. Saying thank you, fabulous. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for an amazing webinar. Thank you so much for this. I really appreciate your feedback. I'm glad this has been helpful for you guys. Alison saying sales tips are always so helpful. Yeah, that's great to hear. I think sales is a bit, as I said, was quite daunting for a lot of teachers when you start doing your own like independent teaching, fund your own private students. The sales bit is the bit that I think a lot of teachers really struggle with. It's the marketing and the sales. that business stuff can be really kind of, I think, quite scary when you're just first starting out. Fatima saying, thank you. Yes, speaking to the parents was the key take-home message there. Fantastic. Great to hear that. I know it's scary, but if I was going to give you guys one key thing to do at the end of your trial class, just try it out in your next trial class, see how it goes. I know it's a bit scary, but try and talk to the parents at the end because it has a massive impact. Even if you're not ready to do the whole process, you don't feel confident like showing them the sales process or something like that, if you think that's going to be a little bit too much to kind of jump in with, even just showing them the screen, like showing them on the screen that feedback bit at the end of the trial class and just being like, they did a great job, thank you very much, bye. At least that's something they've seen your face, and build up that confidence in terms of the whole sales spiel as you go forwards. But honestly, I feel like most parents do want to chat to you. And once they see your face and they start talking, they don't stop talking. So yeah. On that note, by the way, I didn't say this earlier, but when I schedule trial classes, I try and make sure I haven't got another class immediately afterwards, just in case that conversation with the parents does overrun quite a lot. Or also so that we'll talk more on Friday about the follow-up, but so I've got time to do some of that follow-up and stuff immediately after the trial class. So when I schedule the trial class with a parent, I always say to them, like I said on Monday, are you available now for a trial class? I try and get them in a class as soon as possible. But I also make sure that now I actually have time to do at least a 25-minute trial class, plus the time to kind of wrap up with the parent at the end. So I give myself like a full hour in my schedule in terms of making sure I've definitely got plenty of time to do the trial class. I've had students occasionally have some tech problems and tune in like 10 minutes late as well. So it means there's a bit of flexibility in terms of giving them a full like 25-minute class and having time to wrap up with a parent and being able to send them a message afterwards, thanking them for the class and sending some follow-up things. More on that on Friday. So I do make sure I've scheduled time, so I'm not like panicking at the end of the trial class trying to rush through things super quick. Mary saying, thank you, super useful once again. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm glad this has been helpful for you guys. Katie saying her key take-home message is it's important to have your systems in place for payment and scheduling so you can quickly show parents. Quick feedback is important too. Yes, I think even if your system is not complicated, like even if your system is just something like a Stripe invoice or something, just showing them this is how you pay. Scan the QR code on the email I'm going to send you. That's it. Like make sure you just got a plan so you're not sort of scrambling around last minute panicking trying to figure out how the parent's going to pay you or like how they're going to sort out the classes. When I first started out, I wasn't using a booking system. This was pre super teacher. Can you imagine the horror? How did we survive? But pre super teacher, I would just message with a parent and say like what time would work, and in fact you can just talk to them in that wrap up sort of session at the end of the trial class and ask them what time do you want classes, and schedule it that way. So sometimes just messaging back and forth and agreeing that we're going to have classes every single Friday at 5 p.m. Sorted. You don't necessarily need a super complicated system. Personally, I find that super teacher just automates all of it, which is so helpful. But yeah, having that in place, having a plan, sending that quick feedback, absolutely. Takeaway: show the parent the feedback slide off the class and get them to sign up. Yes, the feedback's so important. That is the key thing. Otherwise, the parents wouldn't even know what the kid had done. I would say quite often I have parents in a child class. I'll sit with the child at the beginning just to help make sure they're confident. But it's not unusual for them to wander off. So they'll miss the bit where I actually teach the child something. They'll miss the bit where I give feedback and say what to the child and say what they learned. They'll miss all of that. And at the end, they'll just ask the child, "How was the lesson?" "Oh, it was all right, Mum." That's not how you want you want to have control over how you represent your class to the parents at the end. So yeah, talk to them at the end, show them that feedback, and get them to sign up. Anything. I love the idea of doing the placement test. Great, yeah, really helps. And it's I don't know why. I think a lot of the companies make them do a test or quiz before they place them with the teacher. So with the companies, you're probably used to just teaching a class and not doing a test at the beginning. But yeah, I do find it really helpful to know what level they're at, so I know which trial class to show to them. Otherwise, it could be a bit awkward if I pick a completely incorrect level. Ivy's saying, depending on what you're using Super Teacher for, one-on-one class with the parents not that tech savvy yet, and they're better go with the direct link. If you're doing group classes or courses, resources, then have them sign up. Yeah, you can send them the link. So depending on what you want them to buy, I'm going to talk more about this on Friday in terms of what I send them in the follow-up. But if I want them to buy like a one-on-one class package, I'll click through myself to the bit where they make the purchase, and I'll just send them a direct link to that page. So they don't actually then have to click on the, and it sounds really simple, but they don't have to click buy one-on-one, buy this particular package, buy 12 lessons, click now. I save them like 2 clicks, but if you send a direct link to that page, they know exactly where to go. That can help save time. Same with the group classes. If you're doing a group class with Super Teacher, send them the page, the group class page. Don't send them to your generic profile page because then they can't find the group class. Because as I said, some parents really struggle with reading sometimes. So yeah, make it as simple as possible. Amazing. I tried Qualigo for a while, but I used to do the workshops. I found it kind of challenging or confusing. So I used to class in. Yeah, it's always difficult, I think, making any kind of switch to a different system. And I would say as well, Qualigo has improved a lot in the last few years. I think I was right there at the beginning when they first launched. In fact, before they launched, I was part of their kind of team of teachers trying out the beta version of it and giving feedback and ideas and stuff because and right then it was very basic and it was lacking a lot of things. Some things were a bit confusing and hard to find. It didn't quite do everything we needed. But they developed a whole bunch of useful features. And now it's incredible, by far the best teaching platform I found. I'm not saying that because they pay me to say it or anything. I just genuinely really love Qualigo. But yeah, so if you've not tried it out in a while, it's worth trying it out again just because it's probably changed since you last tried it out. Compared to ClassIn, I find that the whiteboard on Qualigo doesn't have so many tools all over the place. I found with ClassIn it was a bit too overwhelming with like 50 different things I can click on, none of which I used. So with Qualigo, it's much easier. I just drag and drop a worksheet onto the whiteboard and can do it. Right. So if you're using like the Age Academy worksheets that are available with lessons, you can just load it up on the whiteboard, and then it's the annotation tools, and then the actual lessons I open in the co-browser. I would recommend going to their workshops because in the workshop they show you this is how you use the whiteboard, this is how you use the co-browser, this is how you use Playground. Which I'm going to be honest with you, Playground is a bit too scary for me at the moment, and I don't use it. But I use all the other stuff in Qualigo, but I don't use Playground. I find that a bit too overwhelming. But yeah, they can help. So I recommend going to their workshops, definitely. I think key takeaway is the magic conversions happen right after the class. Thank you. I'm glad that helped. I think when you recommend mentioning class prices before or after the trial class? Oh, big question. Usually there'll be a bit of a conversation list even before the trial class because quite often parents will ask, like they know they don't want to waste their time having a trial class with a teacher who's going to be out of their price range perhaps. So they often ask me beforehand and I'll be on to them. I'll say my normal class price is this. I do have some class packages available. You get discounts around this kind of amount, but it depends really on what exact class package you put together depending on how things go in the trial class and how many classes you want to purchase and things going forward. We can talk about it more after the trial class. I'll say that to them. So they have a rough idea of the benchmark, like roughly where am I pitching my prices. But then at the end of the trial class, when I'm showing them the how to purchase page, it pops up with the price. So like they can see the purchase price right there on the screen. I'll say to them, this is the price for this many classes, and this is how you pay. I've actually never really had parents at that point question things or like negotiate massively. I used to a while back before I was doing all this, like talking to them at the end of the trial class type stuff. I used to have parents negotiating a bit more like on prices, and I'd often then suggest like a group class kind of setup, that kind of thing. And which case I do that usually over messaging, that sort of thing. But yeah, now I've sort of switched across to focusing on that sales message and talking to the parents at the end of the trial class. We can have that conversation more face to face, and the parents feel a lot more confident purchasing even quite large class packages straight away. So not had many issues with that. But yeah, I mentioned at the end of the trial class mostly is where that conversation happens. Tweet's saying you gotta go. No worries. Thank you. See you on Friday. Yes, I hope you found today's session helpful. See you on Friday. Great. Okay, I'm going to wrap things up there because I feel like I've talked, yes, an extra 20 minutes more than I planned to. And so thank you so much, everyone, for sticking around. I hope you found this helpful and insightful in terms of some top tips and what to do in the trial class itself. If you've missed anything in the bootcamp so far, by the way, you can watch the replay for this and the replay for the last session. And on Friday, after Friday, the replay for that one will all be available on YouTube here. Same link as like to join us live. So if you missed anything or you want to rewatch things, do go back and watch the replay. Quick request, if you did find this helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe because that does help these videos reach even more amazing teachers like you, and I do really appreciate it. So yeah, I'm going to wrap things up. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm glad this was helpful, and hope to see you again, same time, same place on Friday. Make sure you remember to sign up for the email